Good morning, Anka. How are you?
Good morning, good morning. Well, I'm happy to be here again another Tuesday. Today with a topic that's very dear to my heart because I've seen it play out in all different kind of ways. So today we're gonna tackle assumptions, the mother of all evil. In the software development, we used a different word, but basically saying the same thing. So I'm curious to hear what comes up for you when you hear assumptions.
So, when I hear assumptions, I hear let's change that to curiosity. Let's see, because sometimes what we do is we make assumptions without getting the full picture. We fill in the dots and then we join the lines, and sometimes we get ourselves into a mess in communication and relationship. So, what I like to suggest to my clients is always repeat to the person what you saw that was factual. What if you had to do a video clip of it? There's no emotion in it. So I saw that you didn't come to your appointment. You booked 2 appointments and you didn't come twice. That's a fact. It's got no emotion in it. I like to break it into 4 steps. So that's what I noticed. This is what I thought about it. It made me think that our work maybe isn't worthwhile for you, that you're not so interested, that the work is maybe too difficult. I would choose maybe 1 or 2 points. I wouldn't go in too many points. That's what I think. That's the assumption that I'm making. How would I feel about it? I feel disdainful that you've made these 2 appointments and you just don't pitch, and then you write to me afterwards. And what I'd like is it's a difficult one. I'd like you to come back to me and tell me when you can make a commitment if you'd like, or if you'd like, I'd like you to be clear with me that yes, you would like to continue the work, or no, we're done. And I keep that very short, maybe 8 sentences, but I go through those 4 steps. And that's where it allows space for curiosity, because I haven't said to you, Anka, you disappointed me, you did. I'm telling you what I saw, what I experienced, what I felt, and what I like. And then you have the opportunity to respond to that. How does that sound?
That sounds great. That sounds great. And I think very much, I think this should be standard operating procedure for, because it is so true. I mean, in my experience, the pitfall with it is that assumptions usually creep in and we're not aware of it. Right?
Interesting.
So most of the time, we don't know we're making assumptions. We just think it's a fact, right? And that's, I think, because the thing is, for you to be able to go through those steps, you need to already be aware that I might not see the whole picture here, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time when somebody reacts, it doesn't actually. And I really got to see that when I left Germany, right? And all of a sudden, and I moved to a different country. I moved to Australia. Big eye opener, apart from being beautiful, but giant eye opener in the sense that, because that's the thing, also I did speak English. So I thought, well, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly happen? And there were so many situations where, I don't know, like say Australians would have said Germans are so rude. And you were like, why? What? So, but then, well, there were a million other examples where that worked the other way around until you get to see, well, wait, this isn't everything I thought was a fact isn't a fact. Right, so basically the cultural norms were different. Like the Germans don't kind of go and thank you, would you please? They don't use please and thank you all that often. Right, doesn't mean they're rude. Right, but I mean, if you're in a society where that is very common, then for the German it's got, oh, for God's sake, you're so all over it. Like it's kind of feels like over the top, but then on the other, and overdone, it's like almost to the point that it feels insincere. But whereas on the other end, the way that's received is like, can't even say thank you, right? So it's like, but that's why I first got to see it. And to be honest, my marriage broke down over that, right? I was married to an Australian guy, it didn't go well. And we like later when you look at what happened, oh yeah, we would use the same words, but actually had quite different understandings of what we actually meant. until we realize that we're actually talking about two totally different things, and that's, I think, our brains are wired. We need assumptions. We can't reinvent the wheel every time we open our eyes. So it's not that they're bad, right? They allow us to function, but they do have, a lot of pitfalls. And well, we're not even, when we go into the world of tech, and that's a whole, like, there, it really plays out big time, right? But I think that's the tricky part, that we're often not aware of them.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you were saying about the cultural differences, and I said the steps that I mentioned about coming to awareness. And I'd like to think you've triggered in me that, firstly, this is what we want to do in these talks. We want to bring a sense of awareness. You just brought up a beautiful cultural difference that sits right here with us in this space, one being German, one being South African. I don't want to insult the Australians, but I'm going to Australia. In my politeness, I get them. And what I'd like to take from what you said is to remind people that when we do see, oh, the Germans are cold, because that's, of course, we're not. We're South Africans, we're Australians, we're warm, is to always, when you make that assumption, no fact, number one, it's an assumption. It's not necessarily a fact. And number two, come closer. Anka, I didn't like it when you said X, Y, and Z. I didn't mean that as an insult. In German, that's such a common thing to say. Come closer, Brené Brown always says, and you'll see that the differences actually melt away. And I think our work together has shown that the cultural differences can melt away when you just come closer. Tell me more. Being curious. It kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning with assumptions. Be curious. Express your experience, and then let me hear. What was that exactly what you meant? Was I spot on? Was I right?
Yeah, no, that because I mean that does open the whole topic up for conversation, and I think it takes because I mean, even when you talk about the example, I'm sort of sitting here as the recipient, like if that was a conversation we'd have, right? So it doesn't feel accusing in any way, right? So that means my defenses don't go up, and there's much better chance that we actually come to a solution rather than both storm off.
Beautiful, because that's exactly what often happens. I come to my assumptions that I want to withdraw. I don't want to be with you because you hurt me. But if we can come closer and be curious and say, this was my experience, tell me more about what happened for you, then we can come closer. Because storming off and withdrawing or going behind a wall never actually gets you what you want, which is that closer and that closeness and that understanding of what's going on in this communication.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, that's the thing is, it's one of those topics that you see play out everywhere, a lot in communication, but, it plays out in when you build a business, it plays out all the time. It starts with when you assume like this is a real typical one, very classic one. I did some mentoring for Thinkific, an online course platform, a couple of years ago. So, they basically hired me and obviously other people to help new course creators, right? And every single time, all these people I worked with, the first question was, so you've got this course, yeah, and all different topics. First question, have you sold it? And they go, no. Okay, so how do you know that this course is what? Oh, no, I know what they need. Every single one. I know what they need because I'm the expert, and I get it. I've created online courses. There is this sense where I've been where you want to go, so I know exactly what you need. Oh boy. That's why so many people struggle selling their courses, right? Because they insist on teaching what they think they're so certain that they know what people want and look for, and because knowing what they need, that's one thing, but you also need to at least describe and position it in a way that it makes sense to the people you want as your students. And that's loads of assumptions in there. They're quite often wrong, right? So
you're opening up a whole new topic, which is so rich, and we can bring this another time, is when I'm the expert. You need to learn from me. I am above you. And there's no place for intimacy when I'm above and you're below. we can only really have deep communication when we're eye to eye, toe to toe. Where I understand I'm on this journey with you. So if it's a course or in my work, I'm not the expert in relationships. I'm on the journey with you to discover how to make my relationships more joyful and more pleasant. But I know that sometimes I need to breathe myself down because I'm looking down my nose. Sometimes I'm shame-based and I need to breathe myself up. So I think that could be a whole nother conversation.
Well, we've got our next topic, right?
I think so. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Today. You too. And we are taking a little bit of a break, I think 2 weeks, and then we will be back. And of course, as always, you want to ask questions in the group, please do. We'll be answering, we'll be checking in. Thank you, Anka, for being with me.
And send us some examples of assumptions you've made that didn't turn out quite the way you thought. Good way, in a good way or bad way, whatever. I'd love to hear.
Lovely. I think that's great. Bye-bye.
Bye.